Okie doke, welcome back to the channel. It's your favorite Algebra 2 teacher that you currently have. Probably because I'm the only one. We got to use the discriminant to determine what kind of solutions this quadratic has. If you remember, quadratics have several options for the way they can look. Alright, so they can be happy quadratics like this. They could be sad quadratics like this. But the main point here is when we talk about solutions, we talk about these things called zeros. And zeros are where something crosses the x-axis. But there are several possibilities for how this could happen. There could be two places where it crosses the x-axis, like this one, or like this one, there's no place, it doesn't ever cross. This one just comes down and touches in one spot. So you got 1, 2, or 0 places where it crosses. And here's the big caveat. The fundamental theorem of algebra says that they all have two solutions. They all have two zeros. So what about this one? Obviously this one has two zeros. Maybe you could buy that this one counts as 2, which it does. But this one? Well, this one has imaginary zeros. Okay, so we got to, what the discriminant will tell us is which one are we dealing with? What kind of quadratic are we dealing with? Okay, and to do that, we're looking at b squared minus 4ac. That is the discriminant because it's the part underneath the square root in the quadratic formula. And if you're taking the square root of a negative, ding, 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 that means you have imaginary roots. If you're taking the square root of a positive number, boom, boom, you have real roots. If you're taking the square root of 0, that means there's only one solution. There's no plus or minus. It's just one answer. Before we can do that, though, the b squared minus 4ac, everything has to be set equal to 0. Remember, you're finding zeros, set it equal to 0 first. 9 squared minus 6n minus 8 equals 0. A, B, C. So then you just plug it in. B squared, that's negative 6 squared, minus 4 times A times negative 8. Okay, so negative 6 squared is 36. A negative times a negative is a positive. So even if I don't know this number, I've got 36 plus a number. This is going to be positive. So 72 is what that is. So 144, 288. So 324 is what that looks like. 324. That's the discriminant. And if I ask you for the value, you need to put that. But recognize this is positive, and that tells us something about the type of solutions we have. It means we have two real solutions. There are two very real spots that you can see with your eyes where it's going to cross the x-axis. I put solutions or zeros or roots. Those all are referring to the same points. And what are those zeros? They're the x values that make the y value 0 for an equation. Alright, and let's do the other one here as well. I'll do it real quick. Okay, once again, we got to get everything set equal to 0, which means we need to move all this to the other side. Subtract 10n squared. Now I'm going to subtract 7n minus 8n minus 4. You could divide all this by 4. I'm not going to bother, but you could. Because that doesn't change the value of the zeros. Just makes your math a little easier. But let's do b squared minus 4 times a times c. So remember, when you square a negative, it's still positive. And then negative times a negative is a positive, but then times a negative again makes it negative. So 16 times 4 is 64. Oop, that equals 0. and when it equals 0, so that is the discriminant. That's the part underneath the square root. And when it's 0, it means we have one distinct real solution. We don't know what it is yet, but there is one real number that we can plug in for n here. Actually, here. Nope, here. Sorry, we can plug in right there for n and get an output of 0. There's one distinct real number that we can put in there. Alright, so that's discriminant.